Hello, everyone. Welcome into Making an Impact, our Thursday night hangout talking about Impact Wrestling. I am the foe, Cody the foe, fresh back from a trip to Toronto for the live action from this past weekend's Impact Rebellion and the Rebellion Fallout. I'm a week ahead of the action, but rewatched tonight's show for what I didn't get to see live. Joining my always partner, the natural, Astrid Pizarro. Astrid, what did you think of tonight's show?
I feel like it was good, but taking notes, I feel like there wasn't a lot that happened. I don't know if that's me, but that's how I felt tonight at least. 'Cause, like when I was taking notes, it felt really weird. But no, other than that, I feel like it was a good show though tonight at least. How are you?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Some of the backstage stuff filled in a little bit of the gaps of what I didn't get to see.
Hmm.
Obviously, the same as what happened to you when you went to the live shows down where you're at. Lots of the action though, getting to rewatch and kind of see what I maybe didn't catch from my spot in the crowd. Lots of fun stuff going on in this show and lots of stuff to talk about. Um, let's just kind of jump right into it, I guess, and hit it off the bat with the BTI show. We had Heath and Rhino following up from their Rebellion uh, countdown match, coming off their loss to Champagne Singh and Shira, getting back at it, taking on the team of a couple guys coming up from the bottom with Impact Wrestling, Jack Price and Shogun. Um, can I tell me what you thought of it, Astrid?
I really like more than anything the part with Shogun and Rhino. That part where like they really highlighted them and they really said that during commentary too. And one particular thing that I really enjoyed about commentary, especially during this match, is how much they gave us of their background, especially Shogun. It's the first time I watch him wrestle, so it's nice to get that background story of him. It's like, oh, he does mixed martial arts, and he grew up in New York, and he grew up doing this with his father, and things like that. It's nice to get to know them in that way. So when they show up later, you already know who they are. So that was some nice insight as we're watching this match. But other than that, I feel like the match in itself there wasn't really a lot to highlight. But I obviously had a feeling that he then ran away in with the win going forward. I mean, the other guys are only there so often, so I knew they weren't gonna win the match. But overall, I think like the clash of like Shogun and Rhino there was really interesting, and I like how I think between Gia and Tom they kept mentioning, I hope they have this is enough weight for the ring to hold up. He's like, no, they reinforced it tonight. We're good. Nothing's happening. But I love those little tidbits that they did during commentary tonight.
Yeah, I definitely like kind of the backstory that they gave us, and that they really sold us on the fact that Jack Price and Shogun both came through the gut check program. Obviously, the one that Jason Hotch had won last year, but that they came from the same place. Kind of sold us a little bit on Hotch, kind of where he's gone with it, teaming with Skylar in the good hands now. And I like how Gia at one point she mentioned how Jack Price and Shogun are going about it the right way, and
Mm-hmm.
then I forget what it was that Jack Price did, but it was a little bit more on the heel, like underhanded side of things. And she's like, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe they're not doing it the right way.
And I like also knowing the background of him. I think he was in Big Brother, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't know that about him. Like even
No,
what?
no, that was Sheldon in the Joe Hendry match.
Oh, Sheldon, that's what it was. So like little tidbits. That's what we got a lot tonight from like commentary that I over like that I didn't get to hear beforehand. Even watching like the tapings that I was in, I don't remember hearing that before from him.
Yeah, for sure. The commentary is definitely growing. I think Gia really just
Mhm.
seems like she's growing by leaps and bounds week after week. I said it a couple weeks ago when I was on with Ed too, that every so often you have something that she says that makes you kind of scratch your head and be like, where were you
Mhm.
going with that, Gia? And
Yeah.
then just as she gets more and more comfortable in this role, I feel like she's come so far
Mhm.
already in such a short time of doing this. Um, as far as the match itself went, I felt like it was a solid BTI match. Nothing glaringly wrong with
Mhm.
it. I'm not sure really how I feel about Shogun as a wrestler right now. It was cool to hear the bit that they were like both him and Jack Price grew up idolizing Rhino. So for them, it was kind of a cool opportunity to get to be in the ring
Mhm.
with him. But as you said, Heath and Rhino pretty obviously were getting the win out of this, getting back in the win column after the loss to Singh and Shira, and doing it in front of kind of a Rhino positive crowd and letting him get the gore for
Yeah.
the win after seeing them take the L the night before.
Mhm.
We kick off the main show just with a recap of the two title matches, Deanna's victory and Steve Maclin's victory from Rebellion. A couple things that we'll touch on a little later, being their title wins and how they got there and where we're going next. And then we got into a 6-person tag team match. And this match was fantastic. All 6 men involved are extremely talented in and out of the ring. I was kind of confused how we got here, and I was hoping to get a little bit more backstory of something, whether on Twitter, whether on Impact socials, wherever the case may be, or even just a backstage setup before we jumped right into the match. Because we got Time Machine of Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Kushida taking on Rebellion triple threat match opponents of Speedball Mike Bailey, Jonathan Gresham, and Trey Miguel, now apparently forming a 3-person tag team, which made zero to little sense to me.
Yeah, I thought the same thing you see in the graphics. So I was just hoping that something would happen before that, some kind of backstage segment that would lead us into like hopefully Santino saying, you know what, I'm tired of all three of you guys arguing or something like that. I'm gonna have you guys be a team now, something like that. And I was hoping something would happen to explain it. And then when we start the show and it just starts like that, I was like, oh, we're still not gonna know why they're teaming. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I was just overall curious how it got built up to that more than anything, and I wish we have got an explanation to it. I don't know if we'll get it next week, because obviously, like you said, you don't get to see the backstage part like it happened to me during the show. So maybe that will fill up that gap next week. But I would have preferred opening with that kind of segment or like something in between there. Or even put it on social media just to hype up the match and be like, oh, this is what's happening. This is how they teamed up before we start the show. But overall, like the match in itself was amazing. Um, I love, that back and forth they had, having Speedball being in the corner of Time Machine and not be able to get out of there for a while. Uh, Even the spot, I wish it would have lasted a little bit longer. But that spot there, everybody from Time Machine, everybody from the opposite team, and like a submission in the mat. I thought that looked super good, but I wish it would have lasted longer. And like, especially for me being watching it on YouTube, they go, "Yeah, we'll see what happens next," and then we come back from commercial and everything's done. I was like, "Sure, I wanted it to be longer than that."
Yeah, it did draw out a little bit
Yeah.
longer. The other one that they didn't really show the entirety of was when all 3 members of Time Machine were twisting Trey Miguel's arm one after the other, like twisting it and twisting it and twisting it. That went on for what felt like 2 minutes in the live, and they
Oh
cut
my
it to a really short segment on tonight's show. So
Yeah, and I think overall, like towards the ending too, if I'm not mistaken, when they were holding Trey up for that, I keep wanting to say double team, but it's a triple team, team at this point. Towards the ending for Chris Sabin there, but that part of it, I feel like it looked great with having Trey on that end of it there. And I thought it was interesting getting Trey pinned as well.
yeah, it was a really fun match to watch. Like we said, it would have been nice to get a little bit more set up, but they definitely did a really good job of selling the story both in the ring and with Tom Hannafin and Matt Raywolt doing their jobs on the commentary desk. Everybody really played their part in just telling the story without needing the setup. Still didn't tell us how we ended up getting to this match, how Time Machine ended up crossing paths with the X-Division champion and his opponents. But the story in the match, obviously, was that Trey Miguel felt he was better than his partners. He didn't need their help. They were just kind of there to, take some beating for him, but he could do it all by himself. And he kept trying to do it all by himself. And ultimately, that's why we ended up where we did, with Trey Miguel taking the loss at the end of this match. The story told and the competition in this match, none of these 6 men could really have done no wrong, I don't think. And as the match was going on, I definitely felt like we were heading towards Trey taking the loss, that it just made sense that whoever was getting the win here was going to be the next contender. And so now I'm fully expecting that heading forward in this, we should be in a position where we're going to see Chris Sabin versus Trey Miguel somewhere down the line now.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting too, because we're used to seeing the Motor City Machine Guns or in Time Machine as a team here. So to see Chris Sabin get highlighted against Trey, I think that would be super interesting going forward.
Yeah, you can't quite split the Motor City Machine Guns right now as long as they remain NJPW strong champions, because that would have been my first thought, is seeing Sabin and Shelley kind of bickering over who, over Sabin being the next number 1 contender and Shelley thinking that maybe he should be in that spot. It doesn't make sense to do it as long as they remain champions somewhere else, but it could be a little bit of a a friendly rivalry that maybe Sabin gets a shot and then Shelley gets the next shot kind of thing. Yeah. We go backstage where we have Gia Miller interviewing Santino about returning for his first match back in 9 years. I think Gia asks him here about, now that he's got back in the ring, is he going to be doing it more often? And Santino goes off a little bit that he didn't come to rule with an iron fist. And I didn't get the complete quote. I don't know if you did.
No, that's all I could understand from that part of it, at least. It's like, I wish if I had gotten more.
But basically, he doesn't want to rule with an iron fist, but he might still wrestle rarely.
Yeah.
Gets interrupted by Alicia Edwards, who is ranting and raving about Eddie being buried in a coffin by PCO and what is Santino going to do about it. And Santino expertly turns this and looks at her and he's like, "Why aren't you in your gear? You have a match coming up." She's like, "Wait, what? Since when?" And she runs off to go get her gear. And Gia looks at Santino and is like, "Did she always have a match?" He's like, "Well, she does now."
That was perfectly done.
And then Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice come in and interrupt and start talking about their road to 50 and needing to have more competition. And Santino tells them, "I'm not going to keep bringing people in to beat you." And so Zicky offers up that if he can find somebody, he'll pay their wage and pay their transportation to come in. And Santino's like, "Well, okay, if you're going to pay for them, then sure."
Yeah, the only thing that I thought by the way this was happening, I thought that match was happening tonight, right after that. So it gave me that vibe like it was happening next. And then when I saw that the Diana part was happening next, I thought that was super interesting because I know they didn't say what's happening tonight or next week or anything like that. I don't think I remember hearing that, but it just gave me the vibe like it was happening right after that. So I was waiting for it to happen, to see who this person was, and then I got nothing. But it just made me laugh though, because at the end, Gia and Santino was like, "I'm like a zookeeper here," and I was like, it just reminds me of my job a lot. I just say I'm a glorified babysitter, because they're all kids. I call them children. So I understand you, Santino. I totally understand your point on this.
Yeah, it definitely gave the vibe that it could be happening tonight, but it wouldn't have made sense for it to happen tonight because Zicky still needs to fly them in. That's why he has to pay transportation. They couldn't have been there already. So,
right, they should have said something. They didn't indicate that, which I thought was weird, because usually they go, "Oh, next week, and we'll get it," something like that. They didn't mention.
Yeah, we didn't even get it in the next week promo at the end of the show tonight, but most likely that is happening next week, that we will see Johnny Swinger in a match. Next, we went to a commercial, came back from the commercial, and it was a video package for Deonna Purrazzo welcoming the new age of the Virtuosa. And I know you paid a little bit more attention and went back and grabbed some notes on this. So I'll let you kind of go through what you saw from this video package.
Yeah, I want to highlight the things that stood out to me, because she said at the beginning, so much of history has happened by accident or circumstance. And I think that I like having that tie back to the situation with Mickie being injured, and it happened the way it happened for her. And then I like how she said, even though she's recapturing it, and the age of the Virtuosa was defined a certain way and defined an era. She said it's now over, but then she welcomed it back as a new era, as the video package was ending. And what I love more than anything is her saying, "I had it before, I was highlighted in this certain way, and it's the end, but we're gonna go to a new chapter with me being champion here." So I think it's interesting. Not only that, but the match in itself was great. I love watching these two wrestle. Rebellion. I enjoyed this match so much. I'm glad it was the main event as well. I applaud Impact for doing little things like that, because the women were the main event, and it was announced early on that it was the main event. It was no doubt about it, because I think towards the start of the show they mentioned it. But yeah, the story in itself, I feel like it's great, because even when Mickie does decide to return, if she does, we still have her and Deonna that we can go forward with, and that would be super interesting to see. I feel like now we have a few other girls that could get into the mix, and as we got a little bit later on of Taylor Wilde kind of being interested in Deonna now, And I feel like we have a few new girls that could get built up, like as we were saying the last couple of weeks. Like we have Jody Thread that just came in there; she can get built up to go against her, and we can have Deanna and Killer Kelly, and we can have Deanna and Masha for the title now. And I feel like even though you have seen the matches before, having the title just give it more significance than it did before in their previous matches. So I'm looking forward to this reign with Deanna on top now.
Yeah, it's definitely set up in such a way that Deanna has a lot of new stuff going. Obviously, the Deanna and Giselle story has kind of been going for a bit now, but there's definitely the possibility that we could have Giselle coming around and stating, I have beat you in a match. Now you have the title. I want another. And then all the names that you've listed out there, and the possibility of Mickey coming back and wanting her rematch. There's also, Mickey and Jordan still were supposed to have that rematch that we never got to have. So that's another possibility down the line, maybe of setting up a number one contender in the future. Lots of different opportunities to go with there. Yeah. Going from one lady to another, we jump into the ring where we have Alicia Edwards in action for the first time in quite some time. Coming down, and Terrorizing is already in the ring. Same Terrorizing that we had face Jody Threat in her first match a couple weeks back. This was a quick match. I think this match really just served the purpose of setting Alicia back up as a competent threat in the ring, and setting up her heel character and letting her kind of get into that role now that she's realigned with her husband and made that move. One thing I did want to highlight here, just from being there in that live crowd, is Terrorizing was actually a really big fan favorite of the crowd. The crowd, when she came out, seemed to really be behind her. They really seemed to support her a lot. I didn't feel like I heard it as much on the TV as I did being there and physically seeing it. I think Terrorizing would make a very strong addition to put some depth in this division, and have her come in and start to like grow and build, or at least someone for Impact to have on their radar as a future asset to pursue.
Yeah, I feel like I got that vibe too when she had her match with Jody, even though the match was quick in itself. I thought like it would be nice to have her come in and be a part of this roster like in the next few months too. I think like I didn't hear anything like a big reaction for her, and I wish we would have heard that on like at least on the broadcast in itself. But like you said, this was a quick match. It just felt weird though having Alicia win a match. I don't know if that was the same thing that happened to you, but that's what what I felt like. I knew from the moment, because it was Taylor versus her. I knew Alicia was gonna win it, and when I saw it, I was like, even though knowing it was gonna happen, it feels so weird to watch it and so weird to know it happened. It's like, are we really at the time when Alicia's winning a match and she's getting highlighted on Impact? What's happening here? So I'm like, I'm enjoying her, like her be like tied up now with Eddie now, because we get this now out of it. Um, but yeah, it was like itself a quick match. She ends up winning with like a face buster kind of move. But yeah, it just made me think of like I would like to see Taylor getting involved with some of these ladies in the future, because we already saw her twice now. So that's something that I'm hoping that happens in the next few months. Um, yeah, and then I also felt weird like thinking about it, which I think I know it's probably because of that, but I know she mentioned like Eddie being in the casket and everything. I like that we didn't get to see Eddie anyway here. Like we're still pretending he's probably still in that casket after the pay per view, and kind of think that's how I saw. That's how I thought about it when she was talking to Santino. But I think it will be interesting going forward if we see Alicia getting more wins, because I feel like we haven't had that with her really. So I think that would be super interesting to see.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, after having seen this, do we feel like this is a setup now for Lish being a credible threat for the title? Or is this just setting her up, given the way this match ended? Are we just setting her up to be a victim for Jody Threat?
Yeah, I don't see her for the title, because it's just like I said, it feels like the first time she wins for me at this point, even though I know it's not. But no, I don't see her going for the title. I would just see her going against somebody like you said, Jody. That I feel like they both will get highlighted, and I feel like it will be a good way to like help and catapult and elevate Jody more than anything. Have her pick up some wins, and it will make sense for her to win against somebody like Alicia, who's down there very often. So yeah, I see it more like Jody's the one getting elevated towards that title, and that will help on the way for that.
Yeah, it's something I wouldn't want it to drag on too long, but it's something that I could see as a little bit of a feud building up over a little bit of time here to make the match actually feel bigger, even though, Jody's just coming in and just getting her feet kind of on the ground, and Lish is coming back from a fairly significant hiatus from in-ring action as far as Impact is concerned. At least I know we've got a couple digital feature matches on Impact Plus over the last little bit where she's been wrestling other places, but having her come in, get her character, get a win now, setting her up as someone that's kind of on the rise for Jody to knock back down a peg would be kind of the way I think we're heading with that.
Yeah, same
And
here.
then after the match, we again had a break, went backstage where Jody and Tara are kind of sitting on the stairs. I felt like the promo here was a little rough. It got its point across, but just the way it was cut seemed really rough for me. Essentially, Jody's saying, she hates seeing people being taken advantage of. She kind of earned some respect for how Tara kind of put up a fight against her in her first match. And so because of that, like, she wants to see Tara to like stand up for herself more, but she's going to take care of Alicia. Again, seeing that we're heading in that direction, but Jody's promo just, it felt awkward to me.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I would have done it more in the ring, like her helping Taylor stand up after the beatdown kind of thing, and like telling her is like, don't worry, like I'll take care of her kind of thing, and to do something quick like that as they exit the ring. I feel like that would have been more like suitable for that rather than by the stairs. It just felt awkward. It's like, why are you by the stairs after the match is over? It just, I don't know, the setting in itself, I feel like it wasn't fitting. So I would have preferred they've done it like in the ring, and like her helping Taylor get out of the ring and kind of telling her like, don't worry, like, you did what you could, you stood up for yourself, but I'm taking care of her from now on, kind of thing, as they were like leaving the ring together, something like that, to like make it quick after the match happened, rather than making it backstage. I don't know how long after the match happened, but like it came really quickly for me, being that I don't have commercials on YouTube. But yeah, I feel like even the setting in itself, it just felt awkward.
Yeah. It is like I mentioned, seeing Tara possibly getting on with Impact, if they were to bring her in and make this a tag team in the future of Jody Threat and Terra Rising teaming up for the Knockouts tag titles, I would be completely on board with that as a team as well.
Yes, please.
Next up, we got a match that comes directly from the aftermath of Hardcore War on Sunday. Obviously, Team Dreamer ended up getting the win over Team Bully after the referees refused to help Bully hold his ladder down. So Bully got mad. The referees beat up Bully Ray, and then they held the ladder for Tommy Dreamer to put Bully through a table and finish him off. Dreamer did announce on Sunday that was going to be his final match for a little while. Astrid and I are both very happy to have heard that. But it did give us some interesting teams and interesting matchups moving forward as well. So coming to this match, we have Moose being accompanied by Brian Myers, taking on Yuya Uemura, being accompanied by Bhupinder Gujar. My first thought as this was starting was that I'm still questioning why Moose and Myers are together now that they're not dealing with the Joe Hendry problem anymore. Two, I love the pairing of Uemura and Gujar and want that to become a regular thing and want to see them actually making a spot for themselves in the Impact tag team division.
Yeah, I just kept thinking like the main thing that I liked about this is what I had mentioned with Ed and when we did the predictions is like I said it from the beginning, is like I like the people in the match in itself. If you just could take up Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer, I would have just been happy with the match. Or like if you could put the good hands as it was advertised originally, like in the match, I think like that would have been good for me too. But what I like about it more than anything is like we have taken the people from this match and we kind of pulled it to do this match and the Kazarian match too, which I like there's little stories coming out from the people involved in the match in itself. But like you said, it just felt awkward seeing like Musso and Myers at the same time. It's like, do you guys have to stay together? I don't know. Just let me know because it feels weird to see on TV. But like you said, Yuya and Bhupinder, I feel like they look great together. I know they're baby faces, but I wish we would have seen a little bit more from Bhupinder kind of helping Yuya, because we had Myers on the other side doing it with Moose, and it's like I wish it would have been a little bit more balanced out in this match. Um, but I was gonna say, I know that Moose is a beast, obviously, as he's the god of wrestling, as he calls himself, and things like that. But like seeing Yuya lifting Moose the way he did at one point during the match, I was like, "Holy crap! I want to see that again." I love how like it was a good show off for him too. It was like I said, I wish I would have been more balanced. Of like, I'm not saying he had to distract the referee, but at least kind of do something towards Myers at ringside, being that he was there, because it was only I think the second time when Myers was distracting the referee and when Bhupinder got involved. So I wish we would have had a little bit more interaction between them, being that they were both outside. Um, but aside from that in itself, I like the match and the way it was portrayed.
Yeah, it was definitely done well. I know Gujar did actually go and take out Myers at one point when Myers' interference got too much. That he went over and took him down, and they rolled around on the ground for a little bit, but ultimately it was too little too late. I did like that we saw kind of that glimpse there where Uemura actually hit Moose with, I believe it was the top rope cross body, that Myers distracted the referee, where it was a position where it was set up in such a way that you'd think that Uemura actually had Moose pinned, which makes Yuya look strong in that situation, even though he didn't get the win. And then ultimately takes the spear and gets the loss. Altogether, though, this match set up a lot of different possibilities that I would like to see. I would be perfectly okay with, crisscrossing these matches, have Myers and Gujar take on each other next, maybe have Moose take on Gujar, have Myers take on Uemura, a tag team match, any different combination of these four men going together, feuding together, ending up with maybe a situation where one of them is the next team to face Team ABC for the championships.
Yeah, I feel like also, even though like we had Moose win, I feel like it was a great way to highlight Yuya Uemura in this match. So like you said, with those combinations, I hope moving forward it would be a good way to highlight Bhupinder, like as this storyline is happening. And this is what I was saying during the predictions too. Is like I like that even though we have Dreamer and Bully Ray as like the team captains, the match in itself focused a lot on the younger talent that was in the match there. And that's what I loved about the match more than anything, aside from like the ending in itself with like Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer. But what I liked more than anything is like you could see like the younger people in this match were like getting involved in such a way that you kept thinking of those little spots that they have with each other. Like, since when are you gonna see Killer Kelly like staple her head? Like it doesn't happen often. So it's like it's one of those things that you cannot forget once you see it. So it's like those little things that will make you remember her, remember like the people in the match when the spots happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun in that match, a lot of different possible storylines coming out, a lot of different dream matches that I would like to see play out in the runoff from that. As much as we kind of hated on the Bully and Dreamer storyline as it was coming up, the fact that neither one of them was on this show now tonight, but a lot of the pieces from their match got to tell stories, felt really important and really progressive in moving Impact in the right direction.
Yes, thank God. God.
Speaking of Impact moving in the right direction, we got a promo with Jimmy Jacobs from Nick Aldis, the newest member of the Impact roster. Nick Aldis joined the commentary team during the Steve Maclin and Kushida match on Sunday night, got in the ring and disrupted Maclin's celebration after the match, and kind of made a statement tonight of where his intentions are heading now. I know you have a little bit more experience with Aldis, both from his time as Magnus in Impact, Astrid, and a little bit with his NWA time. How are you feeling about the Nick Aldis edition here?
I love it because at the same time I was thinking he was gonna end up in WWE, but I like that he's here and he's back. And I wish it would have happened during my tapings. I feel like it was set up perfectly to help, save Mickey from everything that was happening with Bully. And every time they were in the ring, I was just looking towards the ramp, waiting for him to have a run in. I was like, "Why can you come in and defend your wife? Come on!" I feel like I would have loved to see it at that moment. But I feel like it does make sense for him to come in here now and just say like he has that target on Macklin since he came on, and he said, "It's like I'm going for you." And I like how he just calls him out and just mentions it, like what happened during the match in itself there. I feel like it was definitely a surprise, like seeing him. It took me a moment. I just thought it was gonna be one of those things, kind of like the hex. Like he was only there for like that thing, and that was it. And then when he said, "No, I'm part of the roster, like I'm officially back," I was like, "Oh my god! Finally, we get more signings," which is one thing that you and I have been talking about since we started the show. It just they needed to revamp the roster in a way, and I feel like it's nice to have now him getting involved on this because there's so many new faces that were not there when he was there. So I think like his mix with them will be super interesting going forward. And when Mickey's back, I would like to see some mixed tag matches, please. Like I want one at least for both of them. That would be
Nick and
nice to
Mickey
see.
versus Maclin and Deanna.
Please, at least that one match is the one I want. Um, but like I like having his mix in here. I think that would be super interesting to think like moving forward how it'll happen. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to him and Steve Maclin. That would be amazing to watch. But yeah, I'm glad he's back. I like how he was part of the commentary and just giving us a little bits and pieces of like he's gonna be inserted into this, sometime in the future. So very happy about him being there at least.
I definitely, it's nice to see a face like that. It's nice to see a guy who has. Um, I like how they covered a lot of their bases. So for anyone who hasn't watched for the extended period and doesn't remember his time in Impact before, he gave a little bit of a history lesson of him coming in and like at 21 years old with a really bad gimmick and working his way up the roster and becoming world champion, leaving, learning some new moves and some new holds, becoming an even better champion and coming back. And then they talked about the Steve Maclin changing of the guard ceremony for tonight that Jimmy Jacobs asks him, will you be attending? And he covers that base by saying, Macklin's asked for none of the roster to be there, so I won't be out there at ringside, but I'll be watching. And Steve knows I'll always be watching. And when the other line I kind of took note of was he said, when I get my shot, I'm going to win that title and usher in the oldest era of Impact Wrestling. Which I don't know where he's going with that or what he means by the oldest era, but I'm definitely interested to find out.
Yeah, I wonder what that really means for him, like moving forward. The only thing is, like, I know Macklin's not gonna have like a long reign, like the Josh type of length. But being that Nick is there, I wonder how they're gonna extend it in a way before Nick gets involved in the title shot. Because I feel like Nick is gonna be involved in there. I don't see him losing, but at the same time, I don't want Steve to lose. I mean, Macklin to lose it like that quickly after he wins it. So it's like I think like the timing, like of the storytelling here, will be like something to look forward to see how it works out.
Yeah. We've definitely told an interesting story with Macklin of how he's managed to tactically control his environment. So I'd like to see kind of how long they can play this out and how long they can avoid putting them in the ring. Because I do think that we would have a really solid story pre-built depending on Josh's recovery time if Macklin can hold the title until Josh is back. But at the same time, you can't just try to do that. You still have to tell the stories and let it kind of progress in its own way and not try to extend unnecessarily long if it's not working. Hello, Ed. Dixie is not back. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but thanks for popping in. We jump next, Astrid. A 2-on-1 match also running out as we kind of alluded to earlier, running out of that hardcore war match. We have Frankie Kazarian taking on the Good Hands of Skylar and Hotch, basically coming straight out of hardcore war where Frankie took out both of the Good Hands all by himself, with the double move on both of them in the ring and then putting one of them through the table at ringside, which Frankie ended up slicing his back up really bad on that table spot on Sunday. So good to see he's still able to get back in the ring and keep going after what looked like a pretty nasty cut on Sunday night.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because when I had seen on at least on Twitter like the graphic and I saw the Good Hands, I was like, "Is this really going to be a 2-on-1 handicap?" I was like, "I don't believe this." And then when they both came out and they kept going through all the announcements, like, "Oh, it is 2-on-1, interesting." But I like you said, having that part of him and like showing off what happened between them in the match and how it's set up to this. And I like having that connection there. Oh no,
That's
Ed. So that's
that's
what
what
he
Ed
means.
meant. The oldest
Okay.
era of TNA history, bringing back Dixie for a short period. No. I would say if we're going the oldest era in TNA history, let's go all the way back and, bring back the AJs and Samoa Joes while we're at it.
Oh my God, that's too old at this point.
Let's get Mike Tenay back in there. Let's bring back like Russo and Bischoff and.
No, we're okay. Thanks.
No, you sure? Okay.
Yeah, no. But I like the match in itself, and I like the connection that they made of like how this came out after the match from Rebellion too. I mean, there's not much for me to highlight in it. But just it's a given that Cass is gonna win. I don't see the good hands winning this match. Sorry, guys. As much as I wanted you to win, and you're not gonna win it. But I think I think it will be kind of interesting to see how it goes moving forward. The Cass dealing with both of them, and if he's gonna end up adding somebody else to team up against him to go against them, or like is he's just like I can do it by myself, I'll be fine. Because I feel like it's not often that happens. So I think I would like to see that more often with him.
I think at this point that this match told the story. The little promo that Hotch and Skylar cut beforehand, talking about the fact that they were just coming out to support Bully, that they weren't even in the match because Arian had no right to put his hands on them, and he assaulted them. And again, they requested this match as a 2-on-1 to get revenge, and Kaz put them away quite easily. I did want to note, because I know I've talked about it on here a little bit with you in the past, that the good hands give me a little bit of early FTR vibes. I still feel like they're full of that potential and they have the ability. And I just feel like they're not being utilized to that potential here in Impact. I feel like they're filling more of a Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, B team kind of role at this point, and not really doing what I think they're more capable of.
I think one thing that will help too is that being that they were teaming up with Bully in the way they were, like not teaming up, but like associated with him, if you want to call it that. They were mostly showing up to like be his backup, so that they were being used in that way. And I wonder if now that he's like, at least in this taping for tonight, he was not there. I wonder if going forward we will get more of them getting highlighted as a team like this, since he's not there. And he doesn't need them to be their backup, basically, and that way they can be on their own without having to like separate from him. So I'm wondering now that you said FTR, and then like I guess the Mechanics era, is that what FTR was in NXT before they were like FTR? Yeah. So is that their era? Is that what you're thinking of the vibe for them?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Is back when they were kind of the two good hands in NXT that became the Mechanics that became FTR.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
I want to just leave the next bit to you, Astrid, because I want to know how you feel about this. It filled in a hole for me here, but I'm curious how we got here and what you think of this going forward.
You tell me this was not your favorite part of tonight? Come on. Come on, you gotta tell me it's your favorite part of the whole night. No, it was like watching this, I was just like, we already have a championship, Taylor. Don't get involved with Diana. Just stick to over there where you are with Kylan King. I'm sorry, Kylan, just dropping you on her like that. But yeah, I don't want her involved in the title whatsoever. I didn't even like the promo in the way it was. She's just like, oh, what's in the cards for like the virtuosa? She's like a fake or whatever. I think she's called her something like that. And I was like, why is she of all people getting the title shot? I know that you obviously would need fillers in between before like the big matches happen, but why is Taylor getting that? Like why is she the first one? Like that's how I saw it. It's like it could have been anybody for me. I don't want her involved in this. So seeing that, just like, I don't know. I don't want this. I really don't. And then seeing the graphic later, like it's happening, just like, why? You already have one championship. You stick to that one. You don't have anybody else to defend it against anyway, probably at this point. So just, keep it that way. I didn't like the promo. I don't like that this is happening. I wish I didn't have to watch it, but yeah.
Yeah, like the tarot card reading, it gives me mixed feelings. Like, what part of being a witch has to do with tarot cards? Like, are you a witch or are you a fortune teller?
Let's ask Mel because she knows a little bit about it. I have no idea. I have no knowledge about this.
She makes the comment in there about, we're champions and Deanna's a champion. And then she asks Kylan, do the cards say anything about Deanna and or the age of the virtuosa? And they flip a card and they're like, no, it's the age of Aquarius. And just I don't get what they see in Taylor Wilde. We've seen a lot stronger female characters on Impact programming in the last little bit who aren't signed to contracts that I feel would be much better suited to be in the role that Taylor Wilde is in than Taylor Wilde is. And
yeah,
I try my best to be positive about a lot of stuff. And, I think Taylor's veteran experience at this point is something that maybe Kylan can learn from, but Kylan is more there to protect Taylor in the ring than I think Kylan is learning from Taylor out of the ring.
Okay, here we go. Mel gave us an answer. I mean, Mel saying, they're sort of the same thing. LOL. A mystic is just a fortune teller, and a witch can see the future. They have the ability. I feel like that's the only thing that Taylor does. Is like she says she's a witch, right? I get that. I know that people practice that. I never have. I probably never will. That's not how I was raised. But I feel like like Ed and I always say when we do taking over, what we love about Alba Fire and Alidon is that they do a little bit of everything. They use their herbs. You see them doing their stuff outside and like doing rituals and things like that. With Taylor, we only get the cards in some way, shape, or form. Like that's all she does.
Yeah, so she just carries around a deck of tarot cards and holds it up in the
no
ring
matter
and
where she
scares
is.
Jessica with a card. And
it's like the only set, no matter where she is, the setting might be different, but it's always the same thing. Just with like different people, just like, here, I saw a card with your future, Cody. It says you're a fraud. And then here I'm like during this match, I'm gonna show her the card. And then that's about it. And it's like, oh, we get its cards here and cards there. It's like, show me something else. And Mel say, but aesthetically speaking, Taylor looks like a mystic or fortune teller. The trendy witches look like Aladon or Valhalla in WWE. It just I want something more than the cards. That's the part that I'm like, it's not all you can do. And then like we don't like if it was for me watching it, I feel like I don't get witchy vibes from her, except from her throwing her W, which is the W for wild as well. So it doesn't help me either. Like at least if her last name was a different letter, I get it. But like when I see this, I was like, is it for witch or wild, or is it for both? I need to know.
Witchy wild.
No, please don't help her. So just and then watching this with Kyling, I don't want to say I feel bad, but Kyling has a lot of experience in the indie circuit, and I feel like I know maybe this is her way of like learning with Taylor because she has been there long enough, but I feel like she could learn from other people in that aspect because all we get from Taylor is the same thing. Yeah, I feel like we get it's like the same kind of segment with just different people every so often. So to me, it doesn't give me anything. That's why I'm like, I don't want her with Diana. I know it's probably just gonna be just a one-off, and then somebody else will come in and something else will happen that will set up for Diana's next challenger. I don't see Taylor winning the match in itself. And at least if she was like her performance was backed up in the ring, I would kind of understand it. But as we said before, so far her matches have been like super slow and other people carrying her through it. So it doesn't help me in that aspect either. I'm just to me, I was excited for her to come back because I was thinking I remember seeing her before. So it's like I would like to see what she does now, so many years later. And I've been like very disappointed with like the way it's been since she has arrived in Impact. And I know she's gonna be here for a little while, so we just have to go through her for I don't know how long at this point.
It's frustrating even more so that we're watching or at least aware of what Trish Stratus and Lita are doing in WWE right now, that Taylor Wilde's been out of the ring half the time that Trish has been out of the ring and can't even keep up with a quarter of what Trish is capable of.
Nope, not at all.
But we move from possibly our least favorite promo of the night to what I'm going to declare was probably my favorite promo of the night. The Death Machine is back. Sami Callihan cut what was an absolutely tremendous promo, declaring himself the puppet master of professional wrestling, that he knows how to set out like a plot and play the long game. The design pissed him off, so he devised a plan to expose them from the inside out. that while Diener had his 7 deadly steps to joining the design, Sammy had his own 7 steps. Step 1, shave his head because that's what they wanted, and he didn't care about his hair anyhow. And then steps 2 through 7 were to destroy the design. And he's not just going to destroy the design, he's going to ruin each and every one of the design members. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Finally he can do it, and he doesn't get interrupted. No more than anything, what I love about this promo is just something that I always loved about the Shield. The fact that he holds his camera and it's himself and he does the promo like the way he does. It feels like more personal in that aspect of it. Yeah, I just love hearing him be able to tell us like his side of the story now and like his plans towards this. It is like wonder though, and I've always wondered this. I'm guessing he's gonna take one of them, each one out one by one until his Diener's the last one. But then I wonder, like in the story in itself, like what happens with the design overall after this is done. Because let's say, for example, that he takes each one out every single week, and so he goes to Diener, and then he takes out Diener. So does the design just break up, or do they just stay as a team? How does that happen? Like affect them as a team moving forward? So that's something that I kept thinking in the back of my mind is he kept saying, like when he mentions their names and they show the graphics on the screen, that's what get going through my mind because we see him doing this by himself. So I know it's going to take some time, but then what it will be the aftermath for the design was more than anything my question going forward after seeing this. Because I'm like I want to see how this plays at least on the broadcast and how it plays off with the team in itself. Because I like the team, so I don't want them to break up. But at the same time, something has to happen or change within the team by Callahan doing all this in the process.
Yeah. My favorite part of this was the way that they pulled the footage from the like all of the different weeks and the subtle little the winks and the nods and the looks at the camera from Sammy that everybody had kind of been picking up on and looking at, and I've seen all over social media for the last few months now where he looks away from Diener and gives that kind of that wink at the camera when Diener's not paying attention. And they played that right in that, I've known for weeks. I've been making like it obvious that I'm playing the long game here. Just, I feel like the character and the persona and the overarching power that Sami Callihan can command in his position is something that has been missing from Impact for a little while now. I feel like a personality like Sammy's being muted almost for as long as it has was, as much as I enjoyed the story while it was playing out, having him back just makes it obvious how much we were missing by not having the true Sami Callihan around.
Yeah, I feel like I also missed him being involved with other people. So it's another thing I'm looking forward to, like after this is over, for him to get back in there because I think we only saw him like when not being involved or like teaming up with the design wasn't that 6 shooter match if I'm not mistaken. So I would like to see him getting involved in those type of matches going forward because I do miss that part of him. Like now that because he was in that team, it was always like anything with the team but nothing for like his own in that aspect. So I want to see that too happening sometime soon after he goes through them.
Sami Callihan versus Steve Maclin, maybe.
You got my money.
I'll take that match any day of the week. Give me those two like down the line here somewhere later in the year in a title match, and absolutely I'm on board with that. Maybe August in the return to the Rebel Complex in Toronto, we get Maclin and Callihan.
Yeah, you never know.
Following what was a fantastic promo there, we get a pretty great title match. What was our last match of the night? Before the final segment, we have Sheldon Jean, who, as you mentioned earlier, is the one that was actually a contestant on Big Brother Canada.
Yes.
I watched that season of Big Brother Canada. I was heartbroken by that season of Big Brother Canada because that was the COVID year that they only lasted in the house for 4 weeks and had to shut down the house because of COVID restrictions and everything going into place. So Sheldon never actually he was never evicted from the house. He never got removed. He was actually the last one left in the house at the end of the show after they took everybody home one by one out of the house. I knew when he was on the show that he was a professional wrestler. I'd never seen him wrestle before. Even up until this point, I had never seen him wrestle before I saw him in this match. I was very pleasantly surprised. And obviously, I was rooting and I believe in Joe Hendry because we believe on making an impact in Joe Hendry. But throughout this entire match, I enjoyed what Sheldon Jean was putting on. I enjoyed his performance in the ring. I enjoyed his gimmick. I enjoyed his actions, his moves, his athleticism. Again, somebody else that I think Impact should have an eye on and possibly be looking at as a long-term option for their roster.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same thing. I feel, if I'm not mistaken, the first time I saw him was during my tapings. That was like my introduction to him. But being there, you don't get to hear commentary, so I didn't get to hear like background story on him. But I like that tonight we got more of that than before. And I feel like that should have been like how it had been the first time. And I'm glad that they mentioned so many things about him during this. I was like, I don't watch Big Brother, so I never knew like he was in it. And not only that he technically didn't win because of what happened with COVID. So I was like, dude got robbed of this money. Come on. But either way, it was nice to like get that introduction of him and moving forward. I feel like even though we know Joe Hendry was gonna win, I feel like his performance was very well done. It was nice to like see him in this aspect with Joe. They have really great chemistry too. Um, Other than that, I would like to see him getting involved with the roster. So I'm hoping that I don't think he's the one, but I know some people have been signing like little by little. So I'm hoping he's one of them that ends up being signed sometime soon because I like what I saw from him tonight too.
So you are actually right. I did just double check. He was the one that actually fought Jonathan Gresham in Georgia and fought Crazy Steve in Kissimmee.
There you go.
I believe he's the one that they were actually all commentary had to say about him was the fact that he was tall. Especially in the Gresham match. They just talked about how tall he was when he was fighting Gresham. So I didn't realize that it was the same Sheldon from Big Brother. But yeah, absolutely. Like this match, being there live for it and seeing him in the ring with somebody the caliber of Joe Hendry, he definitely impressed me a lot more than he did in that Gresham and Crazy Steve match.
Yeah, that's why like I said, that was my first time like watching him. That's why I remember the name more than anything. But like I said, just like I feel like in commentary they didn't highlight him well enough, and I feel like tonight was better than it was when I was for my tapings at least. But like I like what I saw from him. I wish I would have known more of who he was. But I feel like now that they introduced him and like we've seen him a few times, and it's been a few months because I think my tapings were in January, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was early on. So it's like from like January like up until now, we've seen him like at least 2 or 3 times. So maybe he'll get signed sometime soon. That will be pretty good to see.
Based on what I'm seeing, actually, that match he had with Jonathan Gresham in Atlanta was his first match since before the pandemic. So obviously he's just knocked off some of the ring rust. He looks like he's worked a fair bit with Impact now. So hopefully that means he's on a working deal with them, whether it's an actual contract or a show-by-show deal. I'm definitely in a position now, having seen him a few more times, where I'd be happy to have him pop in more and more often and actually get an opportunity to shine.
I knew it. I think he was one of the ones, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he's officially signed because I know he's on the roster page. I knew I'd seen it, I think either yesterday or today. So I wonder. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But I know I had seen it. I think it was on Twitter either today, if I'm not mistaken, or yesterday. I saw that he was on the roster page, but I don't know if that means he's officially like signed with them. So
yeah,
maybe.
Based on what I'm seeing, actually, the last match he had before joining Impact was a match back in 2019 that Daniel Garcia won.
Well,
while you're looking up for that, obviously Joe Hendry took the match, defended his title, and then we got a rundown of what's coming for next week. So confirmed matches for next week, we get Masha Slamovich versus Jordan Grace, part 3. We get The Design versus Team ABC, as Ace and Bay will take on a new team and a new set of competitors. and we get Deonna Purrazzo defending the Knockouts Women's Championship against Taylor Wilde. And I don't want to give anything away. I would much rather if it was Kylan King in this position. That was my first thought when the Coven entered the ring. Is I would much rather if it was Kylan King versus Deonna. Any luck looking up Sheldon there?
I think I see a video, but it's coming up. It's coming up like a podcast thing, but it's coming up like in January. There's a video that says Sheldon Jean signs with Impact Wrestling. But it's more of a video, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's a video from somebody else, but maybe I don't know. I have to look up more, I guess.
It's definitely on the roster page, so that's a good sign at least. So
yeah.
He's there for a long period now and can start making a name for himself.
I like Cody froze for a moment. I think he kind of did a little while ago, but not right now, I think.
No, that was last night being out in the cold for 7 hours that I was froze, Mel. I'm perfectly good now. Maclin's changing of the guard ceremony. Steve Maclin comes out. It actually opened with the Stars and Stripes, and comes out with 6 camouflaged bodyguards with him. Enters the ring as streamers are tossed in the red, white, and blue, celebrating him. He starts talking about his mission and his success, and how the mission, the opponent changed, but the mission never did, and he succeeded, but he wanted to humiliate Josh in front of his home country, and so that's the mission that he hasn't succeeded at yet. And he challenges any Canadian to come and face him. And not who I expected.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Scott D'Amore is who ultimately ended up coming out. Scott has just a talent with what he does on a microphone right now that I feel like is very, very underappreciated by a lot of people. I don't think Scott D'Amore gets the recognition and the appreciation for what he can do for a story, for how he can tell a story, for how he can word and rephrase the same thing almost in different ways to hit home as hard as he does. And he questions Maclin like for ducking Josh Alexander. He's like, you had the longest title reign in Impact history and you still never came out and made your move. And then he talks about, are you actually out here to challenge a Canadian, or is it just because you're now ducking Nick Aldis?
Yep, I love that part.
Up to this point, and like the rest of it, I guess, how did you feel about this promo as a whole?
I love the part also with the little kid. That just made me laugh altogether. When he's like, I'll take you on too. I'm not afraid of taking on a little kid. And I like how they show the camera to the little kid. He's like, come on, bring it. No, I love those little interactions. We don't get that often with like little kids, especially with like a heel in that type of way. I feel like that it looked really cool, at least from that angle. But I love the part where like Scott tells him, and I had to write it down because I love the line so much. He said, you manipulate reality to suit your narrative. And I was like, sure, like kind of it makes me think back of like the video package of him with the dates every time he was watching Josh backstage. I was like, oof, it made me think of that part of it beforehand. And like you said, the part where he just says, oh, like you challenge a Canadian, or are you talking Nick, and that's why you're saying this. And then when he says, when you trade your that for the headset to Scott D'Amore, I was like, she was like, I didn't realize how much I like Scott D'Amore doing promos up until the promo before Rebellion with Kushida and Steve and Josh in the ring, and then this one too. I was like, holy crap, like I love how he talks, and I wish I could hear them in that aspect more often rather than just his regular stuff. But yeah, when he said Canadian, I was like, I didn't know who to expect, but I was not expecting Scott D'Amore to come out either. Who were you expecting to come out there?
I had a couple thoughts because I knew there was a few Canadians kind of still in the building and around. I was expecting an actual wrestler, though. I definitely wasn't expecting it to be Scott D'Amore, which I should have, because I was there for Rebellion and saw the interaction at the end of the show. No, I don't even know exactly who I would have thought it would be. I mean, I guess a part of me hoped that Josh Alexander would show up at the live show while I was there and get to see him get in the ring. Obviously, there's a couple other members of the roster. Santino comes to mind as somebody who's actually from the Toronto area. Lots of the local talents who were there for the tapings as well. But no, it worked well. And then Scott obviously set up the ultimate Canadian that really was back there that didn't cross my mind at all. When Steve got in Scott's face and said, you used to be the leader of Team Canada. You used to be out here. You just last month hit a Canadian destroyer on Bully Ray. Like, step up and, do something about it. And Scott basically puts him in his place and says, no, I would love to put on the singlet, but no. But I do have a Canadian for you. I have the perfect Canadian, perfect creation 1.
Yeah.
And we get PCO coming out, demolishing all 6 of Maclin's bodyguards, trying to get at Maclin. Obviously, Maclin takes a couple shots and then gets out of dodge, tactically retreats, as it were. And PCO closes the show by putting a couple of the bodyguards through the table that they had set up to try and put him through. I didn't see this coming, but being there, seeing it live, seeing the beatdown happen, I'm on board. I think this match will be really fun at Under Seige. Obviously, I don't expect PCO to be the one to take the title away from Maclin, but I think this is a way that you can draw this story out too, because what's it going to take for Maclin to put down the monster?
Yeah, the funny thing is, we always talk about it this way. We always say the French-Canadian PCO. And then when he said, I'm waiting for a true Canadian to come out, first I was waiting for somebody like a local to come out, because I feel like the crowd reaction would have been perfect for that moment. And then when Scott came out, I was like, okay. But I love that back and forth they had. So that made it up for it. And then when he goes, yeah, like I had the perfect Canadian, I was thinking, who the hell is he talking about? Because it's not Josh, obviously. And then I'm like, how did I forget that PCO was Canadian? We always say French Canadian. I'm like, how in that moment did I forget?
The French Canadian Frankenstein, but we forgot he was Canadian.
I'm like, how? When he said Canadian, like I never crossed my mind of having PCO on that list, which is the funny thing. And then when his music came out, I was like, but he is? And I was like, shoot, he is. I was like, damn, how did I forget this? We always say it this way. And I don't know why it didn't cross my mind when he came out, but yeah, I feel like I obviously, like you said, we don't expect PCO to win it, but I feel like the match will be great to see anyway.
You know who would have been fun to see in that position, who I know was at the show on Monday? Lance Storm.
Ooh. Shoot.
Or another Canadian who hasn't been seen since he was murdered.
Can we revive him, please?
Somebody needs to strap EY to PCO's revival table.
It's like, at least if he would have been killed and it appeared in WB television like a couple weeks later, that I wouldn't miss him, but not seeing him in so long, it's like, can somebody revive him and check on him, please? I think he's still alive.
Somebody find Eric Young and bring him back.
Well, I mean, we brought Taya back, so we can bring EY back sometime later.
Yeah. That's our show, though. Unless you had anything else to add, that was Impact for the night.
No, I feel like overall, it felt like a good reset of things moving forward. So the only thing that I feel like, I'm not saying that nothing important happened, but I felt like not a lot happened when it came to events during the show. When I kept doing my notes, I was like, oh, we're already in the Steve Maclin part. Like, holy crap, that felt like really fast tonight. But like you said, you have one more week left, so we'll see how it goes and how we see it versus how you saw it during your show too.
Yeah, and in terms of like actual in-ring action, tonight felt like it was a little lacking. The opening 6-man tag match took up well over 40 minutes of the show. And then I think it actually went through 2 commercial breaks. That they had 3 full segments dedicated to that one match. And then we got the quick women's match. We got a mediocre length to the Moose and Uemura match, but then we got a quick Kaz and Good Hands. We got a relatively quick Sheldon Jean and Joe Hendry match, and that was it. Like there wasn't a ton of in-ring action. It was a lot of different promos and setups. We've got the next challenger for Diana set up. We've got the next challenger for Maclin set up. We had a digital media championship. Obviously, the Knockouts tag titles are kind of in flux right now while we're waiting for one of their members to take on the singles champion. And then the tag team champions weren't on the show at all. So lots of different moving pieces, but a good way to just move forward based on the stuff that happened at Rebellion and kind of set up moving forward. We've got the next show in Chicago coming up in just a couple weeks. And then Under Seige next month back in Ontario. That there's a lot of PLEs happening in quick succession in Impact right now, that there's not a lot of time to just sit back and let stuff breathe, that it's go, pedal to the metal. Like they got their foot on the gas and they're not letting off. And I've seen a lot of talk coming out of Rebellion, the fact that it was their 5th consecutive sold out show to start the year, and the fact that pretty much none of the shows have really been a letdown. I saw somebody recently mention the fact that they don't think there's been a single Impact show this year that has fallen below like a 7 out of 10, which is hard for a lot of companies to maintain.
And Corey, Mr. Shoba popping in to say hi. I hope you all enjoy the show today. We did pretty much today. Everything that we kind of put down on it was the Taylor Wilder promo. Yeah, but I enjoy what we're watching, and they also announced like Multiverse United for August, so we're excited that we get to do hopefully another watch along with Mel and Andre. The last one was super fun, but I was not expecting another one to happen in the same year, so I'm like, oh, are we gonna do 2 a year now? Let's see how it is. But I feel like at least now we have like more time. I feel like to like see what the card will look like. I feel like last time it kind of came quickly. So I'm looking forward to that, because the idea I'm not looking forward to is that it's a Sunday, but I'm glad it's a watch along, so we can be all 4 of us on the screen at the same time and get
better to be a Sunday than a Thursday again.
Yeah, that's very true. We had to skip Impact on Thursday, but to be able to do that. But still, like overall, I feel like the show was fun. I love what we were seeing, and I love having that mix with New Japan and Impact. And I'm glad Team Impact won last time, and we'll keep it around the same time again.
Let's hit our weekly check-in. Who was your impact maker for the week, Astrid?
Let's see. I'm gonna pick Sheldon Jean just because I like his performance tonight, and I like I said earlier, I like what we had tonight as a background for him. And what I felt was correct, he's signed with Impact, so we're probably gonna see more of him moving forward.
And for me, I think I made it pretty obvious when we talked about the segment. I have to go with the Death Machine. Sami Callihan being Sami Callihan, just he left the biggest impression on me, and I didn't get to see this live when I was there. So for me, for today's show, this was the part that just hit the heaviest, hit the hardest, left that mark moving forward, that I'm now ready for Sami Callihan to destroy the design and get himself back to the title picture, because I unfortunately wasn't following regularly when Sami was in that title picture with Kenny Omega. So I want Sami back at the top of the card for me.
Yeah. I feel like we had a lot of like, even when like we didn't have a lot of in-ring action, we did have a lot of things like moving forward, and that's one of the things like I kept thinking like, what would it be like going forward? So I'm hooked in that, and I want to see what happens next with the design and Callihan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our show for this week. Astrid, I'll let you take the lead for tonight. Where can the people find you?
Tomorrow we're back with Ladies Wrestling Showcase. I know when I have Mel talking about the Mercedes match, I'm excited to like hear her insight about it. We definitely want to talk about the Trish and Lita and Becky Lynch storyline, and some I don't want to say situation, but I guess a little thing that happened between La Rosa Negra and Tessa Blanchard over WrestleMania weekend. So we definitely want to touch up on that, even though I feel like it's a little bit old at this point, but it's something we definitely wanted to discuss after we had seen it. But after that, you can find me again on Tuesday doing Taking Over with Ed, and again Thursday doing Making an Impact with you. I did want to apologize that we didn't do the show last week. Last week I definitely wasn't in a great mindset, and didn't want to do, I wanted to do the show as justice, and I feel like I couldn't do it mentally. But I want to thank Ed for being there for me and helping me out, so he could assist me and we could do at least the predictions for Rebellion, because I definitely needed that little break in there. But yeah, and other than that, you can find me on my Twitter, which is Astrid Pizarro, and my Instagram, Astrid Pizarro 20. And on the weekends, I do have my NXT review going on Women's Wrestling Talk. How about you, sir?
I'm easy to find. I'm here every Thursday night talking Impact, except when I'm not. And then we have Ed in my position, and Ed is my my fill-in.
He's the good hand.
he's a good hand for sure. We'll give him a little shake. No, that's the best place. I'm here watching Impact, talking Impact as much as I can be. Obviously, last week I had to call an audible and ask you and Ed to try and do it, and obviously there was some difficulty getting that to happen there when I chose to go to support my local independent wrestling as opposed to being here talking Impact with you guys, and then took my leave to go and watch it live in Toronto for the weekend. Hopefully should be here consistently now going forward. I don't have anything in the foreseeable future that should disrupt my ability to be on the show, but just want to say, as Mel says, top talent, that's where we were last week. Definitely support your local independent wrestling, get out, support the people trying to make a living, starting off, getting their feet into the industry. We want to keep seeing the industry keep going strong, keep building, keep growing. We're at a great point in the being wrestling fans right now with all of the different options and availability that we have.
She's calling you out. I'm sorry. I also wanted to point out, since Mel said top talent, Mel and Andre do have a review of that particular show on their YouTube channel. So it's Andre and Mobile Wrestling Talk. So if you haven't seen it, I started watching it, but I got busy at work, so I had to stop. But if you haven't seen it, they do have a review of that particular show. So if you want to catch your thoughts on the local talent and get to know more local talent, I definitely recommend going over to their channel there as well.
Just also on that note, want to shout out to them because they actually made available on their YouTube channel this week the entirety of the main event from that show last week, between Evil Uno and our local talent Harlan Abbott. Was a fantastic match. Definitely look up Top Talent Wrestling on YouTube. You can find them and give them a view over there and check out what was an absolutely fantastic match. Like I was saying, we support Impact. We always support Impact. Support what you love, support what these people do, and get out and enjoy as much as possible. Join us here on Thursday nights. Yes, Mel, we did make another nasty video because we love our nasty Nate Nixon here in Edmonton.
Well, yeah, there you go. Now you know. Before we end, though, I did want to head over. I want to rate a newer friend, Miss Thickums. I know she does a lot of 2K23 content, and she's a female in the wrestling community. And not only that, but I feel like wrestling and the video games, I feel it's nice to have females in that community, and she has a huge audience, so I want to bring her over there. So if you haven't checked her out, we're gonna head you over there anyway, so you can check her out. But thank you everybody for being here tonight. And for anybody watching it afterwards, if you can, follow on the Twitch, and if you want to avoid the ads, you can subscribe to the channel. And then on YouTube, you can subscribe so that way you can ring the bell, so every time we upload or we're live, you get notified, so you get to know for next time too.
Mel, Corey, Ed, thanks so much for joining the comments. Everybody else, if you've been watching, if you're lurking, if you watched after the fact, thank you very much for joining us. We're always happy to have you in here. Would love to have you all pop in the comments. Let us know you're here. Let us know what you're enjoying, what you want to talk about. We will see you next week.